motherfuckers. Motherfuckers. Was good. That was a little low. I didn't have the right posture. Hit that low note in the moment. That's okay. Wagwan. We're gonna chill for a little bit and play a little bit. Kind of wanted to watch this, some of this Loner Box Chris Kunzler thing. That'll be fun. Yeah. And play some Outer Worlds. And then probably tonight, talk about the Fed rate cut. And, we'll see what else. We will see what else. Also, new addition, I got a second camera because I'm using my streaming computer, right, to actually broadcast my stuff. Got a second camera so that now when y'all come in on the Discord, y'all can see me in there. I could probably screen share too while I'm in there. The screen share generating shaders because we had a new update to both Windows into the Outer Worlds. I don't know what's in the update. Let me see. Outer Worlds 2 update. It's just a patch. Fixes. Yeah, just a bunch of bug fixes. Nothing special. Nice. Good for you, bro. Oh, you should fuck up and let me play my game. Alright. Where we going? Where's this? Newton. Okay. Let's figure out where we're going. Cloister. Oh, that's the ice moon we was at. Sweet. Alright then. Oh. Let's see what you want.
Believe I have a lead. I wholly agree. I pieced together information from earlier leading to Golden Bridge on Dorado. Oddly enough, to the anchor hold at Matriarch's Mercy Monastery. I had Val set the location on our map. I recognize we're juggling multiple crises, but I'd suggest we journey there sooner than later. Inquire away. I may even respond.
Who are you?
I am a dedicated member of the Order. Beyond that, there's really little you or anyone need to hear about.
You kind of stayed on my ship.
You already know more about me than anyone else.
I kind of would like to know that. Yeah.
I see you're not going to let this lie, are you?
Nope.
Fine. Suppose I'll elaborate.
Go on.
Slightly. I mentioned before I was part of the Department of Preemptive Causal Redirection. My role there, you may recall, was head intercessor. I was tasked to influence pivotal events, to keep the solving of the equation on track. Something occurred. I needed to step off the board a while. Dorado appealed to me because it was off the board, but not completely remote. There I could fly low for a time, but
Guess you encountered an event you couldn't influence. Did it now?
Inquire away. I may even respond.
Well, how nice of you.
Another crack like that, and
Ho,
you
ho,
have
ho,
to find out. Our department employed a variety of methods to obviate hindrances and threats to the Order's efforts. We were considered wardens of the Grand Plan, helping correct it when needed.
So you killed
Sometimes
people.
with purpose. Don't you as well?
So rude.
Do you draw some moral distinction between avenging harm and nipping it in the bud beforehand? Between covert and overt means? When all is said and done, are those in your ledger any less dead than mine?
Let's see if there's like. Okay. Camera software. And then launch it. Oh my god. Let's see. Nice. Added a little bit of brightness. What else we got? That's really it though, right? Okay. That's fine.
Had a sense you felt that way. We'll see if situations force that to change. All of us are part of the plan. We follow the path
The
intended for
plan.
us by the architect.
The claw.
Now and then, some corrections can take time, even delay in the solving of the equation. That's where we came in, to get things back on track in the timeliest of manners. Some were proprietary. Often they involved forms of subtle persuasion, others more overt influence. Now and again, more direct means were required. Maybe.
Should probably talk to my other people too. Got a lot of stuff I can make here. I make a trauma kit. Nice. I need nicotine for inhaled charge. Where can I go like buy nicotine? Can I just buy it? Shock damage. Bleed. Shock, bleed. Go with shock. Okay. I'm gonna do Inez's missions. Start to arrest these fuckers.
Got Inez moved into help. You think Helen would approve of us taking on a product pusher? Heard and acknowledged, Commander. Here's a lesson. I don't have bent on conquering an entire.
Okay. Hmm. Interesting. This one's empty. Hmm. Ooh. Did I sell this place? Mhm. That graft is really something. Hmm. Oh. Cool. Oh. I need to talk to Asa. I need to talk to Inez probably.
Doing
Yeah.
a task or two to buy the order's support is one thing, but aligning with them nice enough folk reasonable sure. Folk here don't seem to trust Auntie's no. Listen, normally I'd take issue with one person playing Kingmaker. That is to say, you and especially the Earth Directorate. But time's too short, and the stakes are too high for tribalism. There'll be enough time for that later. For now, we need to ally with someone who can defeat the Protectorate and close the rift.
We should move on, unless you've got something for me.
Hmm.
Well, ain't that shocking? And now, we got this console to contend with. Fine by me. How personal are we talking? Oh, come on. When I was Notion's taken on a bit of a different meaning now with Auntie, but I reckon that Grandpa
Huh? Can you draw me like one of your Raptidons?
On the off chance you're being serious, afraid not. Never quite got the hang of drawing human appendages.
Appendages.
Vincent. He used to draw posters and ads for Spacer's Choice. He had style. Of course, that didn't last. And Tausetti, he couldn't. Last day I saw him, he refused the half-salt tuna can I tried to. He was gone the next day.
Hmm.
He never found. So if you're wondering why I still hold a candle for Auntie's Choice, after everything, it's because it's been years now since I talked about it. He was a good man. He deserved better. So did the rest of us. Anyhow, didn't mean to talk your ear off.
Alright. Let's get moving. Alright, as in Val. Maybe I'll take Inez this time. Why not? Oh. Nice. It's good. Nice. That. Ooh. Ooh. Blank weak targets. Okay. Nice. Actually, that. Nice. Stun is good. Now let's see.
I would query if your day has been positive, but so few folks, of course.
Yes. Eyes buff for long duration use. Moderate instant heal. Okay. Wonder if you have that lying around, or if I could maybe steal it off of yous. Yeah. Can I pickpocket yous? No? Oh man. Well, I don't want to pay for it. Trump is U.S. has seized a tanker off the coast of Venezuela. I wonder what's in it. Certainly be an important thing. Damn. What up, B-Money? Thank you for your random penis comment. We always love it. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. Why don't you give me a follow, dude? Jesus. thought you weren't there, considering the fact that you're not on the Discord.
Hello?
Hey. Hi. Oh,
Uh-oh.
hang on. 1 second. Let me fix it.
Oh, it worked.
Hi. Hello. Uh-oh.
Hey.
Hello. Hello. Okay,
Oh,
so
it's working.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
you can hear me now, okay.
Okay.
Hey.
Things are good.
Hey, where you been?
Whoa.
Where you been?
Well, I finished the food, talkings, monitoring the flood situations over here in the Seattle areas. You know, just worried about my neighbors and such.
And yourself.
Community, yeah.
And that's fair. You can be worried about yourself.
Nah.
No, not allowed.
No, for the people who live closer to the floods,
Oh.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How's the
Yeah,
situation?
how's it been going?
What's
Oh,
the
it's good.
situation, Captain?
I mean, it's raining more. So out of the categories, there's 1, 2, and 3. The category 3 is the 100-year flood, but they don't predict that. But they are thinking category 2. So I'm not sure what that means, but we should be alive
see.
still by tomorrow.
Category 2 flood. Category 2 flood, also known as gray water, involves water with contaminants that can cause illness, like dishwasher overflows or sump pump failures, affecting an entire room, soaking carpets, and wicking up walls less than 24 inches. So you just got to be careful when you're going out into the water.
Yeah, hopefully I won't be doing any of that.
Yeah. That would be preferable.
Yes, love the lighting. The camera is not as you described it to be. I think it's good quality.
It's like fisheye though. Flat Earthers would love my camera because it's fisheye. They'll be like, "See, NASA's lying to you." It does
yeah.
have like a wider angle than my stream camera, which I don't like as much because I like that my stream camera only does like right here. This one shows a little of my bed, a little of my laptop, and I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, it
But
shows a little
is-
too
it's
much.
fine.
I get it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not awful.
This one does too.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been putting up with.
Oh yeah, I know.
So taking one for the team.
Because I've never seen anything else in that room.
Nope. Let's see. How's your the stream going? We've got
okay.
Penis Boy is there.
It's pretty quiet, Jack.
B Money.
Wednesdays are usually
I need to follow
slower.
them.
No, I don't think you need to do that. I don't even know
Oh, what
they're-
was deleted by a moderator? What's
Oh,
that?
it was just spam.
Okay.
Just spam in the chat. It's got 39 followers just from saying.
I know.
penis.
I was
That's
just checking that out.
hilarious.
Maybe they should start streaming.
Well, all they're gonna do is sit there and say penis.
That's fair. The whole
Huh.
time?
Mm-hmm. Just
Okay.
over and over.
Yeah.
Just penis. A lot of penis.
Only peen.
Only penis. He's gotta get an only. He's gotta make his only penis page.
No, thank you.
Yes, do it.
No, thank you.
Do it, guy.
I changed up my computer setup, so
Oh,
things are weird. Yeah, I'm typing on this computer thinking it's this one, but it's not, and
Why'd
it's
you change it
throwing
up?
me off. Just too much stuff on my desk. I had 2 monitors and a laptop, and another laptop. So now I have 2 laptops and a monitor right now. And I'm thinking of giving the other monitor to a friend so they
Oh.
can do their best Jeff
'Cause-
on Marvel Rivals.
Oh, I know who the friend is.
Yeah.
So, why? You don't want that extra monitor?
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't have enough space on this here desk.
This here,
Yeah,
that's
and
now.
it's a shiny monitor, which drives me a little crazy when I'm looking at it, and you can see your reflection in the dark scenes. You're like, ugh.
Mhm.
So, at least that's me.
Just that I'm not ready for it.
Outer Worlds 2. I need to see what I could get into here.
Oh, you don't need to play this game. Unless you're, like, into, like, super, big open world Fallout type RPGs.
It sounds fun.
I mean,
It would
yeah,
be better
it's-
as a
Yeah, it's not. It's like a one-player game. It's a big time commitment. But, like, if you want to, you're welcome to. I'm sure you'd enjoy it. But there's probably other games like this that you'd want to play first.
That's fair. So that one is a single player.
Yeah. This one's
Game? Okay.
single player. Single player
Yeah,
story
yeah, they're-
type RPG.
I have so many games to finish before I start another. We just keep getting more, such as the ADHD hoarding. Little dragons of
Yeah,
games.
I know. We're gonna have to do just like some straight gaming days.
Yes. And like I have to play the solo player games even if I
They're
tend to not want
important.
to as much.
They're important for your education.
I know. I can't help that I have great people in my life to spend time with in person.
You need to. I think Gringo told me you need to play Red Dead.
Maybe now I can get to the truth of
Yes, I was considering doing that right
Yeah.
now.
Ditch our comms device for a coded
Okay,
message
I'll
from
do
an
it.
old acquaintance, Severin.
Do it.
Team Argentine power. I
Let's
don't know.
go.
I knew it. He wants to help me find out who's behind this. I sent a reply telling him to meet me.
Where do we go? The region. We go over here. Oh no, it's annoying. There is no fast travel to go right here. I have to go nearby and then walk all the way over. This way.
I lost this game of trivia. Whew. That was bad.
Let's see.
It's cool. I'm learning things. I don't hate it.
Ugh, I don't want sound. No sound. Soup. Thank you. Let's see. Les celebrities. Showtime. I don't know that one. Oh, nice. Madonna's first husband. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know these.
Oh, that was my second choice. Accuracy, the accurate structure, but Scary Lucy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that one was not a trick question. Oh, man. I'll start another one later.
Okay.
When I'm not on stream.
Yeah. Focus.
Oh, focus. Oh. What up, dude?
I don't know you, but you, I do. It's good to see you, Asa.
You couldn't wait, huh?
I've never been to Cloister before.
Oh, whoops. Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Boy, damn it. Did they mentally refresh you?
No, let's just say I'm well lubricated.
Ooh.
You tried the new Prestige gin? It helps when you have to do something you really don't want to do.
Bernoulli. Not be well recommended. Oh, metal. You got that one right. I got that one wrong. Oh my god. Let's see. Constitutional authority. Boom. Nice. Alright, this is a trap, isn't it?
Yes, there are a bunch of sentinels in hiding.
Oh my god.
Or I mentally refresh your brain pan with my knife.
Maybe I deserve to be. I didn't want to do this. I guess I shouldn't have questioned the kill order so loudly. It was real. It came from the exalted leader herself. She summoned me, knew of the message I'd sent, said I'd ruined everything. To save myself, to save the Dawn, I had to do this. I'm a coward. I didn't want to die. I'm sorry, Asa.
opening Red Dead.
Personal killing. If we die,
Mhm.
at least I'll be taking a great many of them with us.
Gotta close that quiz music out.
Yeah.
You make a compelling argument. No need to waste our time killing yet more faceless cogs in the Protectorate machine. As fun as that may be.
But you're basically just asking me whether I'd like to be killed by you or the Sentinels. Because when they figure it out, they'll execute me. That gin must have muddled my gray matter more than I thought. I'd have sworn there was no way out of this, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And thank you, Asa. I thought I was dead.
What an idiot. I can't believe I thought of him as a friend. I can't believe she betrayed us. And the whole of the Dawn to save her own life. What a coward. The unspeakable things I will do when I find her. Well, once I find her. The exalted... No, I won't refer to her as such any longer. Dagmar continually moved around for safety. She always initiated
Gotta
contact
keep
with
up
me.
with the,
She knew that she was
what is
in love
it?
with
The
Sentinel.
sub Discord?
There's nothing of it but to get
Uh,
ourselves inside their
what do you
headquarters
call
in
them?
Central.
The different
We'll track her
topics?
accessing their comms.
Oh, the different like
Tags.
channels.
Yeah, yeah. The politics general one.
Oh no, that one is a cesspool. I don't even go in that one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
Respect. Oh,
It's
I got it.
literally like far lefties and far
verification.
righties arguing with each other.
Always fun.
Yeah, I just it's brain rot. That's why I want to grow it so there's like more reasonable people in there.
Yeah. No kidding.
Lots of killing, I'd assume. I stole their access codes when I was younger, but never had the nerve or call to use them. Once we do, they'll become unusable, as they'll set off all sorts
Where are
of
the
alarms.
reasonables
I
at?
did mention all the killings, didn't I? What of it?
They're around, but they're mostly watching me on Kick rather than getting in debates on my Discord.
And no, before you ask, I did not kill them.
Destiny's live right now too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that there was a notification and finally found where it was at. Some article. Oh, yeah, that's a fun one to read.
Alright, now what? Now what? Where we go? Where am I supposed to go for this? Is this off planet? I think it is, right? Sentinel's headquarters.
I need to switch
Heading
these
in the direction.
computers.
Oh, Hey, Nick.
Hey, hello. Okay.
Nick is here. What's Tiny doing? What's she doing right now? Is she just redditing? Just hanging out. I think I was gonna watch some of that Chris Kunzler chat with Loner here in a second. Ooh, Casper. Casper, are you in here? Do you still open my stuff?
Oh,
I don't know.
where you at?
Some boner slop indeed, sir. I'm just gonna hit her with a sad face. And then I miss you.
Yeah. You gotta let him know. Okay.
Some boner slop indeed. Let me throw it on. Let's see how fast we can deal with this.
The Holocaust ended before Israel.
What was the situation Jews were in just after the Holocaust? Getting kicked around,
Right.
getting,
In displacement camps.
getting
Yes.
booted around displacement camps.
Casper
Some of them getting
is
sent to
CS
Seychelles or
Avenue.
Mauritius, or to it was Mauritius and Cyprus. Some of their boats being turned back away from Mandate Palestine and sent back to Bergen-Belsen. That was repurposed as a DP camp. Being in the Arab countries, where even before the 48 war in
Reminds
Iraq,
me
you already
of
had the Farhud,
computer
you already had
science.
anti-Semitic riots in
Yeah,
Libya, you had
true.
anti-Semitic riots going on in Syria as well, Egypt. This was all before the 48 war as well. What else were Jews supposed to do in the 20th century to feel safe? You also acknowledge that Jews fleeing the Holocaust went to countries that all had quotas on them, and that in the Evian conference, all these countries said, let's basically take in none, or we'll make it expand a quota a little bit. Yeah,
Or
Jews can't go
Coxley.
to America because of the Johnson Reed Act and quotas. The
True.
rest of Europe is clearly not safe for them.
Wow.
The rest of the Arab countries are starting to warm up to European anti-Semitism, and also they're starting to flirt with their own nationalist ideas, and nationalism so far doesn't have a good track record when it comes to Jewish people. What were
Got
they
one
supposed to
answer
do?
for
The ones who
that.
ended up in Israel, the ones who went to land that had been purchased or had evolved in quite a few cases, land evictions. What were they supposed
Glut,
to do?
glut, glut, glut.
You know I got to.
So this thing is long as fuck. We're not gonna watch the whole thing right now, but
Well,
I'll
I
probably
swear,
spread it
you
out
pull.
over a couple.
First of all, it's
Day
a jumper,
streams.
you Yankee fucking cunt. And second,
Haha.
Okay.
I live in Scotland. Yeah, it's fucking freezing. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But if you put the heating on, it gets too hot in this little
How'd you
fucking
get
studio
that
room because of
one?
the PC. So,
Shake
like
weight.
even with the
want that
radiator quite
one.
low, this room gets really warm. So, also, I'd rather just. I'm very specific.
Let's see what
very
I've
specific.
got from the other channels.
My temperatures. It's not too cold for
Say
I need
that,
heating,
Bill.
but it's cold enough that I want a jumper. Science, bro. It doesn't have any leg muscles. How could it possibly be a jumper? I don't know why we call it that. Listen, it's the queens, the kings. Don't ask questions.
I see you. Do you see me?
This doesn't
Gotcha.
seem
Yeah, I see
fair.
There we go. There we go. Hello, Learner Box.
Hello, hello. Wait, oh, there we go. Okay. Just
Are
making
you
sure
streaming?
both of us- Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Same. Sorry, I don't know why my picture's so dark. I'm just checking that everyone, we see him, but we cannot hear him. Okay, that's fine. I keep it like this. Perfect. Okay, everyone seems to be fine. I guess the best way to start
Beethoven.
is, look, I'm not very convinced of the position of the two-state solution. So why
Oh,
don't you try
I
and
need to
convince me?
turn up the volume.
Okay. So, broadly speaking, my understanding is that there are two national groups that are living in that region. There's the Israelis and the Palestinians. And for whether we want to debate about the ethics of how the Israelis got there, maybe one story or the other, but the fact is that they're there and they are not going anywhere. The Palestinians are not going anywhere either, unless you want to just have a brutal ethnic cleansing campaign of one group or the other. So they're both there.
Wait. I'm really sorry. I'm not being rude. I just accidentally, they're all complaining they can't hear you. So sorry,
no.
that's my fault. No, I can fix it. It's just I did something stupid. Application audio capture. Sorry. Oh, fuck's sake. There you go. Wait, do you mind speaking? I'm really sorry about
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
that. Yeah, there we go. Everyone can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's start again.
So I guess yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
Okay.
Let's start again.
So you want me to convince you of why the two-state solution is the way to
Yeah.
go? Okay.
I think that's a good position to start from.
Okay, broadly speaking, there are two national groups in that region. Whether one side likes it or not, they're both there. They're not going anywhere unless you want to have a brutal ethnic cleansing campaign of one group or the other. I don't want that. I hope most people don't want that. And they definitely seem to have no intention of wanting to share a country together. So I think the way that we've dealt with national conflicts in the past, or the way that borders have typically worked, is that it just seems to make the most sense to have the Palestinians in their state and the Israelis in
Oh my
theirs.
gosh.
And, I'm a multiculturalist. I think sectarianism is insane. It's a very stupid thing to be watching from a distance. But if you want to solve that, I think it would make much more sense for them to be living in peace and security in their two different regions. And then if they want to engage in trade with each other and reconciliation and whatever else, then hopefully that border would become less and less meaningful. But yeah, if you want them to have a state now in Palestine, then it's going to be two states, not one.
And how do you think that is reached? Like, with the current Israeli government, how do you think that that's plausible? And in fact, not just the current Israeli government, like speaking about the alternatives, because in my understanding, the largest the largest outcome that wouldn't be Likud is Naftali Bennett, I think. And he doesn't support two states. So how do we get from where we are now to a two-state solution?
I think we have to look at how we've gotten closer to it in the past. I think the fact is that despite what a lot of embedded Zionist propagandists will say, for the last 100 years, Israelis have maybe for less than 10 of those been favoring a two-state solution or voted in favor of one. For the rest of the time, they voted for
You
government.
trying to get Mod
In which
in
period, sorry?
Tiny's
Did they vote-
chat?
They voted in Barak, who promised that he wanted to
Nick?
solve the conflict with the Palestinians, and they voted in Olmert as well.
Okay. Yeah.
We can go into details if you want, but just broadly speaking,
No,
they've
no,
been
no.
more humoring of it in the past than they were now, and definitely before the 90s, they were not humoring it at all.
Well, see, I would kind of hold the opinion that I'm not sure really they ever humoured it. I think particularly the best example would be the Oslo Accords, because for me, right, I can't really see any other example where Palestinians have been as close, that the PLO, 100% confirmed their commitment to recognise Israel's right to exist, their desire for there to be a two-state solution, and it just didn't go anywhere. Well, it did go somewhere, which was the further Bantustanization of Palestinian territories and, the strengthening or solidification of occupation.
Do you want me to address that specifically, or do you want me to go back to what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'd like to hear a way in which that wasn't the case.
In which what part? So you're thinking that from Oslo onto the 2000s, the Israelis only Bantustanized further, and were not ever humoring there being a state in the West Bank and Gaza.
I think so, yeah.
No, I'm not entirely convinced of that. I think there's an argument to be made that Camp David wasn't good enough. But given how the PLO and Arafat responded to the Clinton parameters, I think it seems pretty likely that the Israelis were more willing to put something on the table than the Palestinians were. I still, to this day, do not know what the Palestinian offer of a two-state solution looks like concretely. I know they said yes to frameworks, but as far as a final offer, as in this is exactly what we want for borders, refugees, Jerusalem, security, I've not seen anything.
I think the base level is, right, accepting international law, surely. Our government's right.
Are you
this is
trying
sort
to
of one of the
get
problems that I have predominantly with the two-state
Mod
solution, right?
in
Our government was-
Tiny's kick chat? You should. That'd be fucking dope.
say that they want the two-state solution. They declare that Israel's occupation is illegal, that settlements of Palestinian land is illegal, but then they do nothing to pressure Israel in these negotiations. Like at Camp David, in my understanding,
I hope he
there was a
goes
point at
with
which
you.
Arafat
That'd
was like,
be
you are literally
fucking
just repeating Israeli
sweet.
talking points. These are not even America's own talking points. And that rather than acting as like an honest broker, they acted fully as like a dishonest broker in favor of Israel. And I think that at this point, it's like really hard to
Wait,
see
why?
how when you elect
What did he ban you for?
allegedly have these Israeli governments that are moderate, and you have this Palestinian position of, okay, we'll accept basic international law. And also, in my understanding, right, I think there's a couple of different alleged proposals on the right of return, and there's one that was like 800,000 Palestinians being allowed to return, and Israel could have control over that happening. But I think that getting to these points is interesting, because the main thing that hasn't stopped with any of these governments is settlements. Like, how do we get to a point of having a two-state solution when Israel is
Calling a
actively
graper in
undermining
chat a
that through every
brainlet?
negotiation?
Why would he care
Like
about
Israel,
that?
At each one of these negotiations, settlement didn't stop, and settlement has always been the key obstacle to peace because it's illegal under international law, and it is effectively operating not just as a
Seems
random
weird.
thing that happens. It is a thing that is continually happening directly to undermine the emergence of a Palestinian state. So I find it hard to look at any negotiation and not see that as the most important thing.
Okay, so first of all, just because there's a few things going on once there, you mentioned accept international law. When you say that they need to establish a two-state solution based on international law, what specifically do you mean?
I think probably the six-day war borders, right? Is that 242 or 338?
It's both, really. But does 242 say the exact 67 borders?
I don't know.
It basically says the opposite. It says so if you look at the background to how the resolution 242 came about, Lord Caradon, I think specifically, was the main person who spoke about this, is that if you look at the exact wording of 242, it doesn't say first of all, it has the main principle. It's inadmissible to acquire territory through conquest. But then the second part is
Weird.
they say to withdraw from territories. Very strangely worded sentence. They don't say the territories or all the territories. They just say from territories occupied since the Six-Day War. And the French translation, some people mistake it, but the way it's worded says effectively the same thing. So, and the reason they did that was because the 67 borders, really the 49 border, is not really a border at all. It's an armistice line. And it was definitely put in to be ambiguous because they wanted to anticipate that a border based on a random armistice line from just where the Arab and Jewish soldiers were in 49 doesn't really make sense. So it would be open to negotiation and land swapping and things like that. That's why it's there.
DGG chat is never a good idea. Oh, you were in
And then the
DGG?
third part it says that it needs to be on the grounds of mutual security and recognition, as in it needs to be compatible with each side being assured that the other won't use that state to attack the other.
I just find it interesting, like, to kind of quibble with the logic of it there when it says initially that it is inadmissible to conquer territory or to seize an annexed territory
Cosmic
through conquest.
was.
Well, that's why. When it comes to
There's
law, laws are
Cosmic.
usually
Oh,
interpreted
hey,
by
buddy.
The professionals and by the
Caught
people
a
who are
7
involved
day
in
from
putting it down.
DGG
Like they
over
say it's
one
inadmissible,
battle
but then they'll
after
also say that
another. Oh, that's lame.
they say territories and not the territories, and they did that very, very intentionally. They did that intentionally because they were anticipating that whatever a Palestinian state is, it might be a little bit different to the 7 borders. It could even theoretically be bigger. Obviously, it's not been offered to be bigger, but that's why it's there. That's why it's there.
But in order for there to be like a meaningful negotiation, right? In Oslo, Palestinians conceded 78% of historic Palestine on the basis of what they wanted, and 22% throughout the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. That feels like a far
People
bigger
get
concession
more
than anything that
sensitive
Israel
in
was willing to offer.
DGG
and just
or in
being to
Kick?
abide by that and to take it at its interpretation of, okay, it's wrong to conquer territories, and it's clear that at this point there probably is a Palestinian group who will and have the capacity to accept a two-state solution. It feels really difficult for me to see that as like, it's just down to the interpretation of international law. It seems that Israel wasn't interested in giving Palestinians a state.
Well, it does seem to be back down to the borders in a way, because if you look at the details of how they negotiated in Camp David, Arafat didn't seem to care all that much about 1 or 2% of the West Bank, or even 5 or 6%. He was actually quite happy to leave that up to Bill Clinton. The sticking points of Camp David and Taba were not 1 or 2 or 3, 4% of borders. The sticking points were Jerusalem and the right of return. That's where they just couldn't seem to get any. And you said 800,000 refugees. To my understanding, I don't think Arafat or Abbas ever said, this is the refugee settlement we will accept. But they've never said that.
Yeah, I heard Finkelstein say that, so when he was debating Ben-Ami ages ago. But I'm going to be frank, I've never really been that interested in these two negotiations. They've never been the key points of what I've studied. But I think even then, at Camp David, right, how could Arafat have gone back to his people and said, look, I've not got sovereignty over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's a very important thing for Muslims. Like, you must recognize that surely. Like, the Al-Aqsa Mosque matters a lot. It's the third holiest site in Islam. I'm sure you know all
Yeah, of
this.
course, but yeah, go on.
But Arafat was sort of expected to just go back to his people and be like, yeah, sorry, I haven't got that. Because if you look at what Arafat said to Madeleine Albright and Clinton before Camp David was called, he said, look, we can't actually call this because the Israelis are not ready to negotiate on the positions that we want. Please don't call it. It is not a position and a good time to call this. And then Clinton calls it. And the sticking point of Jerusalem is not really that surprising, right? Like that it's, Palestine's, it's such a center of Palestine, they want it as the capital, and kind of getting rid of that is impossible for Arafat. Like, no country can really give up their capital city where the most important center of life is for so many people.
Well, then why did he say no to Ben-Ami's offer in Taba then? Ben-Ami offered the idea of vertical sovereignty, as in the Israelis would have sovereignty over the wall and the holiest Jewish areas surrounding the compound, but then the top of it, because they do this in maritime law sometimes with vertical sovereignty. But then when they said that Al-Aqsa would have gone sovereign to the Palestinian state, so even when Ben-Ami said that, when he was offered vertical sovereignty, meaning that the compound and the Dome of the Rock goes to the Palestinians, Arafat still said no. And the reason he said no was that because we're saying yes to that would entail acknowledging that the Jewish temple existed underneath Al-Aqsa, and he said no to that. That has always been an issue with the Palestinians, that they've never even accepted that the Western Wall or the temple is even there, that it's valid, right?
In my understanding, there's also a threat to accepting that, right? Like, it's now reached a point where it is openly talked about by Israeli government figures of demolishing the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that came specifically at a time when Netanyahu opened the tunnel under Al-Aqsa, which threatens its structural integrity, in my understanding. And so I can kind of see why Arafat might have been like, actually, I really don't want that. I don't want a recognition of the temple underneath, because it is a direct threat to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But also, in my understanding, Arafat didn't walk away. He asked, right, for like a specific...
Oh, wow, it's a threat to the mosque, so we're just going to make sure that we don't recognize literally the holiest site in all of Judaism.
He asked for maps and all of these things at Taba, and then it was more Sharon who torpedoed it, right?
One thing at a time. So it's again. It's
and you
really
just think that's,
no,
I mean, like, obviously
that.
that's going to be what their opinion is, but the fact that he's just like, oh, that's so reasonable, that's okay, I'm totally fine with that. But not Jews wanting to get their holiest site recognized and back. It's fucking stupid.
Vertical sovereignty because of excavation. Obviously,
Double standard,
we could, right? But the problem is that excavation was actually part of the deal as well. Part of the Clinton parameters was that excavation would have to be agreed by both sides if they were ever going to do it. I mean, Palestinian leaders since Al-Husseini since the 1800s have been saying that Zionists want to come and demolish Al-Aqsa. They haven't done it yet, and it would be much harder for them to do it in a peace process. No, that's not why Arafat said no to it. Arafat said no to that because he doesn't believe that the Jewish temple exists there.
Okay. I mean, in my understanding, I've heard some people say that there's no actual archaeological evidence being found of it.
Which people say that?
I heard
fucking
PhD
Wailing
student
Wall.
Exterset.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure it's beyond dispute, but okay.
Frankly, I'll be frank with you at that part. I don't actually fully know as to whether that's true. He said that, but what I will say...
Yeah, but I bet you heard that and you fucking believed it, didn't you?
fundamentally about this is, I understand that during a peace negotiation that may be unthinkable, but let's be real, like, Netanyahu and the right were like, quite likely to come back, and they did come back, did Sharon torpedo the negotiations, right? Because when does Taba end?
Taba ends when, with Sharon and also Clinton leaving office as well. But everyone knew this would happen. So that's why it was very imperative to get it done quickly, which is why the delayed response to the Clinton parameters was an issue, and also the endless list of reservations from the PLO was an issue as well. Yeah, I'm not going to support Sharon either. But the problem is, again, is that this opportunity that's why there was so much pressure, more international pressure than needed to accept a peace deal ever, really, than there was
What
at
up,
Arafat to
Daniel?
accept Camp David or to...
Yeah,
to Arafat, but
I
they didn't.
caved.
And as
I'm
far as map
watching
clarification,
it.
that's to do with Abbas, not to do with Arafat.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
shit.
I think also another interesting point
Oh my
about all
God.
of this is that
Oh, no.
these negotiations had to have very specific dynamics, because in my understanding, the Oslo Accords are about 300 pages long. They're filled with like very complex legal jargon, and that's part of the reason that, you know, they ended up achieving nothing. They kicked down the road the can of refugees' right of return, which, like, Palestinians deserve the right to return, right? Like, they do deserve the right to return, and I'm sorry, I'm unconcerned by the demographics of
Leftist
Israel.
bullshit.
Israel is continually importing huge amounts of, like, Jewish people, and sometimes not even Jewish people, you know, in the case of the huge amounts of Soviets, like ex-Soviet Jewish people who are allowed to bring their spouses over and such. There's about 1 million in the 1990s. And so for me, I can't ever really conceptualize why the Palestinians demanding the right of return is such like a ridiculous or an outrageous thing to keep that as a focus. And especially, I think like Arafat also was particularly interested in Lebanese, Palestinians who resided in Lebanon because of what the Lebanese people had given to him and the role he played in their society.
Yeah, I think it might be in the Clinton parameters or in the Israeli response
Those
to
are
the
like
Clinton
4
parameters.
hours
But I
of
think
street time.
either one
Yeah,
of
we're
those
not gonna
sides
watch
agrees
the
that
whole
Lebanese
thing
refugees
right
would have
now,
priority
but-
because of how they're treated in Lebanon. Makes sense. Okay, but this brings us to a much more broad issue. You acknowledge that if full right of return happens, there's no more Israel. There's just 2 Palestinian states.
Yeah, and
okay.
I think that ultimately that's right. But the reason that I feel that way is because I would rather invest in like the impossible. Because for me, frankly, the two-state solution
Oh,
is
no.
impossible. And the reason I say this
Oh,
right, is because
no.
I think the
Oh,
two-state
no.
solution maybe
I'm gonna
would have happened at some
die.
point if there had been
I'm gonna
major pressure
die.
on Israel. But no one was really willing to do it. Like Carter knew that the settlements were the major issue. Begin just went and increased the number of settlements. Rabin increased the number of settlements. Everyone has increased the number of settlements, and the international community does nothing about it. I mean, I think it's best described as kind of like winking at the settlers. They're like, oh no, you can't do this settlement thing, Israel. Here's unlimited money. Even when there was frozen loan guarantees, I think was that in the it was
Bashir.
Shamir's government.
Yeah.
yeah, and it was linked to the settlement issue, but then they kind of just
Oh, that was
didn't
close.
care, and that's why I'm so like so much more in favor of.
Oh my God, I look away and I die.
Because like I appreciate and understand.
Fuck
Arafat
off.
is not perfect.
I
don't
thought I
think we
was
should sign the Oslo Accords
in a
the first
safe
place. I think it's a
spot
terrible
to
idea.
recover.
I think in
I
like
was
some
not.
people's readings of it, particularly Seth Antiska, he says the Washington Accords, the Washington negotiations, the Madrid summit, were actually looking more likely to get peace because the Palestinians were very clear on what their red lines were, whereas Arafat didn't give any of those red lines.
Very
Sorry, I made a multiple point
frustrating.
there, but I think that the thing I'm saying about one state is I would rather invest in the impossible, you know, and I would rather have the hope that there could be a better Middle East. I would rather hope that the Middle East doesn't have to always be dominated by these sectarian nation states, and that human beings can live in peace and equality.
Yeah, so if you're talking about impossibility,
But if
are we
you
saying
want
impossible?
that,
I
you
know impossible
actually
just
have
means
to like
it's gonna be an
support
oxymoron, but
something that
are we talking about like a spectrum of
builds to
impossibility?
that.
Or do you think the 2-state and 1-state solution are equally impossible, or one's more possible, or like?
I think in the current world order, the changes that are required for there to be a two-state solution would probably just end up being more likely to move towards a one-state solution.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe a broad take about sectarian stuff. So obviously, when you look at sectarianism from a distance, it looks ridiculous. It looks like, why the fuck are you fighting over these like some of it's just arbitrary, some of it's ahistorical, some of it's just like a long time ago. Like all these disputes just look insane. Like I'm Lebanese. I've seen it with my own family and people I know. Like sectarianism it's a cancer. The problem is that when you see sectarian groups and they're all dug into their positions and they're very aggressive and they're very aggressively defensive, it makes sense to say that they should all stop and be multicultural. It doesn't make sense to go to one group and tell them to lower their guard and just let the other one and just hope that the other one will reciprocate.
Did that
So when it comes
badly.
to, that's why I would never tell Palestinians to just like completely throw down their arms regardless of any context, right? If you've got settlers coming in and encroaching on your territory, you should be allowed to chase them away, with whatever means you want. Fuck them. But when it comes to the Israeli side, when we talk about demographic concerns of Israelis are not invalid. Like the problem with nationalism is, especially if you're Jewish, nationalism as a whole is not good for outgroups as it is. It's good for in-groups, it's not good for outgroups. That was the whole issue of the 20th and 19th century nationalism. Arab nationalism did not show any indication in the 20th century that it was going to be massively different for Jewish people.
Palestinians have no
it's not understand this idea where we
accountability,
think that
only the
would
Jews.
exist
Yep,
in a
as
minority
always,
in the
it's
Middle
how it
East.
always goes in
Especially
this
if the majority is Palestinians, the one group that probably has more of an
conflict.
excuse to be anti-Semitic than any other group in the
Unironically, I
region.
think he and Nick
Why that
Fuentes
would
would get
be
along very well.
anything other
On
than, like,
some
how that
things,
would
not
guarantee
on other
multiculturalism and
things.
not just sectarian
As
violence.
soon
but
as Nick
the other way
Fuentes
around.
starts going, well, white people
Because I think, like,
should
I
be the
don't
only
wish
people
to
in
sort of
America,
lie in favor of the
he's
Ottoman Empire. I
probably
think
not
that whole
gonna be a
notion of
fan
tolerance
of
was
it
bullshit.
anymore.
That it basically only operated on the principle of, well, we'll be tolerant to you as long as you're doing what we're saying. That's like how they were tolerant. They were like sometimes, like almost instantaneously, someone could go from being a Christian accepted in the, like the Ottoman vision of what wanted, like the Ottoman vision of society, to just being swapped instantly if you did something that was against the Ottoman Empire. Like I think the best examples are really people like Kurds, or the ones that I've read about. And sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought. Oh wait, sorry. I think that generally in the Middle East, the treatment of Jewish people is incomparable to that of Europe. Like Europe, what Europe did for generations to Jewish people, and continued doing, that culminated really in the Holocaust. Until after that point, Europeans to a large extent were like, well, we need to prevent that ever happening again. And since then, there's been a decent amount of protection of Jewish people that's developed, and I think that that's a good and positive thing. But I just think this belief that Arabs can't stop being sectarian doesn't really fit with how the Europe and how America are ending up.
Well, it took
What
Europe
is
an
that?
entire
Wait.
world war to get over their sectarianism, but and obviously
Yeah.
it took most of the Jews leaving for them to stop
talking
caring
about?
that much about Jews. When it comes to the Arab world, I don't think Arabs are inherently sectarian. Of course they're not. The problem is that we're expecting one group to give up, to lower their guard, and just hope that the other one does the
Yeah.
same, or reciprocates a peaceful offer, which I just don't think will happen. As far as European anti-Semitism goes, you're right.
It's about
Arab
like
world was not
actually
10
ending
years
the
what
conflict
Europe
and
was in
moving
2010.
forward in that way. Yeah, there are obviously extremist groups on both sides. We can quibble about which one's worse. I'm sure you all would know what my opinion is. But the point is, in order for everybody to move forward from this conflict, they're both going to have to figure out how to, like, build some sort of tentative trust, or at least have an external watchdog or something to keep them to account, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening, because obviously there's like no trust at all.
But we also know that Arab leaders were not immune to European
And that is the
anti-Semitism.
crazy
Obviously,
thing
things like-
about like the super hardcore pro-Palestinian side is they're just like, well, Israel just needs to stop and just, you know, stop fighting, stop doing anything. And it's like, yeah, but how can they possibly trust that that is a good idea when every single time that's happened in the past, people have been killed?
blood libel started to come into Damascus in the late 1800s. We know that there was actually one blood libel case, a very minor one, but it happened in Jerusalem, and it was actually backed by Muslim clerics. We know that, obviously, al-Husseini, a very popular figure in Palestine, was just a flat-out Nazi. We know that his cousin, the head of the Palestine Congress, believed in stab in the back myth. He believed that the Bolsheviks were...
Musa Kazim?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, he believed that the Bolshevik revolution was done by Jews, and also that the stab in the back was done by Jews, yeah.
I'd never heard that about Musa Kazim, actually.
Now, he did moderate later, obviously. There's a bit of a rumor that he was bribed by Zionists. I don't know. Not confirmed.
Who wrote about that? I'd be interested to hear.
For that particular
Because
one...
I've seen like a much more sympathetic reading of Musa Kazim. But just on this topic, right, I feel like in terms of Palestinians, they are expected to lay down their arms, right? Like they did in the West Bank. The one-gun policy instituted by Abbas pretty much disarmed all militants in the West Bank. Yeah, there are still a small number of militant groups like the Lion's Den in Jenin, but like organized resistance doesn't really exist in the same way in the West Bank. And the thing is that Israel didn't lay down their arms. It was, and the international community over and over again expects of
But don't
Palestinians
they
to lay down their
work-
arms. Even the most leftist Israeli,
Don't
right,
they work
like
with the
person who's an
PA
outsider,
in
Yair
the
Golan,
West
what he
Bank?
actually believes is that they should still have like military dominance over any Palestinian state, right? So like my problem is that the basic premise of the only two-state solution that we're going to get in the context of like the really existing
Like, they don't
Israel
just
is one where
operate
Palestinians have to lay down
unilaterally,
their
is
arms,
my
but Israel still gets to
understanding.
keep its really powerful military.
So that can get you into a debate about what, just like the power imbalances that already exist, or like factual realities on the ground. I can put it bluntly if you want. Like the fact is that Israelis benefit from violence. Like Israeli right-wingers, at least, they benefit from a degree of violence happening in the region because they'll win and they'll use it to get more territory. Palestinians do not benefit from violence in the slightest. Like maybe there are some edge cases of people chasing settlers away or disrupting infrastructure, but obviously, just broadly speaking, do we agree that Hamas's strategy and the Axis strategy was a total failure
What do you mean a total failure?
for achieving Palestinian dignity, rights, anything?
I think it depends what you look at their aims as. If you take their aims as achieving Palestinian sovereignty, then yeah, you're probably right. Right now, they're in a horrendous situation. However, if you look at the other aims of Sinwar, that is like kind of placing the Palestinian national cause back at the top of the agenda, delegitimizing
Oh,
Israel,
jeez.
and generally showing
But
the world
that doesn't
Israel is
actually
like the
help
things that it had
you.
already been doing in the West Bank. You know, it accelerated them definitely in Gaza, but the structure of mass killing, mass oppression did not start after October the 7th. And so, in terms of like Hamas's aim of defeating and destroying Israel, I think they knew fully that that was implausible on October the 7th. However, what I will say is that like in terms of the aim of like delegitimizing Israel, I don't think Israel's ever been in a worse position right now. I think it's something like 40% of American Jews even think that Israel is committing genocide or committed genocide in the Gaza Strip. The amount of young Jewish people who you now see speaking out and generally opposing Israel in a way that didn't exist before has grown hugely. And I would say consciousness amongst the general populations of like a country like ours. I mean, I know you live in Scotland. Maybe you're a bit of a Braveheart guy, but I don't know. I think that the thing is that like if you look at the general consciousness, the opinion of Israel is in the gutter, and I think it will increasingly become difficult for even say for like governments to cling to it. I think it's a major problem of the Labour Party that it still feels a need to cling to Israel and not offer any significant change
But,
or
like,
policy
what
against
is-
Israel.
what is-
And I think
what
even
is
for the
the
Republican Party in
outcome
the
that he
US,
thinks
like
is
as
gonna
these
come
young
from
Republicans
that?
grow up, it's a worrying thing. Like I think that all of this stuff is
Because all that's
troubling,
gonna
and I think
cause
that it
in
is only a problem that
Israel
will grow to
is
Israel. And I'm
like
sorry
a
if this seems
more
like a contrived
extreme
explanation,
government.
but I don't think we can frame it exclusively through armed struggle is going to achieve instantaneously the aim of dignity and a state. But I think that in other ways it has achieved the things that Sinwar kind of thought, I'm going to do this because of that.
Like
Yeah, that's
right-wingers
great
in
if you,
Israel
but
love
obviously
nothing more
That's great if you believe that the Israeli opinion doesn't
than
matter.
a
Like, we're not going
reason
to treat this
to
like apartheid
point
South Africa.
out
We're not going to
at-
consider
to
the
point
opinions
at the
of
world
the
and be
people who
like,
have
see,
the power and
everybody's
actually are going to
against
turn
us,
things
you
over.
need
Because
to
obviously
keep
that
voting
approach was
for
very
more
much we need to
extreme
assure, like at least in part, they needed to assure the white population that there was a future for them in the country, that they were
But
not going
then
to just
people
get
keep
subject to
spreading
revenge
this
killing.
kind
It's
of
going to be about
rhetoric.
peace
It just
reconciliation nation building.
reinforces that
If we don't care
position.
about that from the Israeli side, then you can have all the international pressure you want. The fact is that you have a population there that, one, for whether they're correct or not, they see themselves as indigenous, but more importantly, they see themselves as with their backs to the wall wall and with nowhere else to go. So if all you're going to do is disempower Israel and isolate them on the world stage, well, who benefits from that in Israel? The right-wingers do. The right-wingers are the ones who constantly go to Israeli left-wingers and say, look, no one likes us. Everyone fucking hates us. That's the only way that we can ever stand strong is if we are aggressive and if we are assertive and we don't let people build up infrastructure and military stuff over in South Lebanon and Gaza. Every time we see a new tunnel or a new weapons import, we're going to blow it up right away. We're not going to let them amass 2,000 rockets or 200,000 like last time. We're just going to keep expanding to the West Bank because fuck them, they don't want peace anyway. That all benefits the right wing in Israel. They love that. So you're never going to get rid of that one single issue is that you have this.
It's what I just said. Literally what I just said.
Nowhere else to go, and they're going to be as aggressive as possible to assert that position. And those are the ones that get more popular. And you cannot be an Israeli left winger in an environment where the entire world is shitting on you. Meanwhile, groups like Hamas or Al-Aqsa March or the PIJ or anyone else are kind of just getting almost a pass or just getting little condemnations every now and then, but can mostly just kind of go on and keep on doing what they're doing. And there's no broad ideological shift from either region. Same with the West Bank as well. Like one of the reasons they're so embedded in the West Bank is it's not just because of wanting settlers wanting land. That's obviously one reason. But another reason is that they think as soon as they leave the West Bank, Hamas comes into power, and then it'll be a place 15 or 16 times bigger than Gaza, taken over by a group that wants to militarize the entire region. So you're not going to get rid of that perception.
But I think one thing I find really difficult to to take that into account is the Palestinian Authority engaged in a heavy crackdown on Hamas in 2009. They arrested thousands of Hamas members. They arrested people who were sympathetic to Hamas. But they didn't want that. I don't want to see Jewish people being sent to the.
Oh no, where was I? Fuck.
Huge amount of Palestinians when the Israeli economy was good to engage in, labor in the country, and then because in the current status quo, the fact is Israel is better to have as an ally.
Rabin, when he stands strong, is if we are aggressive and if we are assertive and we don't let people build up infrastructure and military stuff over in South Lebanon and Gaza. Every time we see a new tunnel or a new weapons import, we're going to blow it up right away. We're not going to let them amass 2,000 rockets or 200,000 like last time. We're just going to keep expanding to the West Bank because fuck them, they don't want peace anyway. That all benefits the right wing in Israel. They love that. So you're never going to get rid of that one single issue is that you have this group that sees themselves with their backs on the wall and with nowhere else to go, and they're going to be as aggressive as possible to assert that position. And those are the ones that get more popular. And you cannot be an Israeli left winger in an environment where the entire world is shitting on you. Meanwhile, groups like Hamas or Al-Aqsa March or the PIJ or anyone else are kind of just getting almost a pass or just getting little condemnations every now and then, but can mostly just kind of go on and keep on doing what they're doing. And there's no broad ideological shift from either region. Same with the West Bank as well. Like one of the reasons they're so embedded in the West Bank is it's not just because of wanting settlers wanting land. That's obviously one reason. But another reason is that they think as soon as they leave the West Bank, Hamas comes into power, and then it'll be a place 15 or 16 times bigger than Gaza, taken over by a group that wants to militarize the entire region. So you're not going to get rid of that perception.
But I think one thing I find really difficult to take that into account is the Palestinian Authority engaged in a heavy crackdown on Hamas in 2009. They arrested thousands of Hamas members. They arrested people who were sympathetic to Hamas. They closed charities. They arrested preachers who they gave gave sermons that were too pro-Hamas. And so I'm sorry, I don't feel the need to pander to the feelings of the Israelis. I don't. I genuinely don't. And I think that also I'm part
But that's first of all, that's in the West Bank. Okay, that's not in Gaza. And Gaza is a real place that they had to contend with.
A structure of violence that is comparable to
Second of
I think
all,
the bigger problem isn't
that doesn't necessarily mean that Hamas is taken care of. Yeah, Israel works with the PA all the time, right? That doesn't change the nature of the situations that still exist there. So for you to just go, oh, so I don't have any sympathy, blah, 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 well, then you're just not, you're only paying attention to parts of the conflict that you want to pay attention to, that you want to care about. Not actually, once again, like always, not actually trying to find a way to end the conflict.
The leader of Labour at that time, whose name I have somehow, it escapes me, don't know. Do you know the answer in the 80s, the leader of Labour?
In 82?
Shafir? Was it? No,
yeah,
no,
not Shamir. You're thinking of Perez, but was he in 82?
Perez. I think it was Perez. Anyway, let's just say it's Perez. He turns to them and says, "You trained the Phalangists. You used them in Tel al-Zata. You sent them in, and now you're moralizing on us for doing it in Sabra and Shatila, just because there's outrage, basically, because of the size of the invasion of Lebanon." And so I think I find this really hard to be so worried about the Israeli right when the Israeli left are doing the same things. Settlements expanded under Rabin. Settlements expanded they started under Labour prime ministers. Yitzhak Rabin during his first term had the most aggressive settlement drive in the 1970s.
Now we're just equivocating
the
Israeli right and
once he gets into
left.
power, but it's not like it wasn't happening.
Feel like
so I think that Israel as a
Leo
country and as Zionism as an ideology has to be held to account because it's not producing any differences. I'm sorry, it's just not.
I mean, these differences are there if you just they are there. When it comes to settlements, obviously, before the 6-Day War, I think there was one person in the cabinet who had big ideas about going into the West Bank and actually taking over, and it was Dayan. The other ones didn't really. That's why they tried to get the Jordanians to stop shooting on them before they went in. When it comes to settlements afterwards, Rabin, when he semi-froze settlements, he made a delineation, whether you agree with it or not, between security and political settlements. Even Barak didn't do that. And also, if we talk about settlement expansion...
Sorry, can I just ask a question? When? Is that the one in the 70s?
No, Rabin. This is Rabin in the 90s. This is when he wasn't in office in the 70s. Or he wasn't Prime Minister.
Rabin was in office since...
Not Prime Minister.
Wasn't he Prime Minister 74 to 77?
No. Not Yitzhak, was he? I might be wrong, actually.
I think so, yeah. I think you may just be wrong about that.
Okay, I'm talking about
I think he goes out because he's corrupt. But just, I mean, actually, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I'll continue. So, yeah, in the 90s, after the Oslo Accords, is when Rabin decides to delineate between security and political settlements, and he stops with the ones that he considers to be political, as in like the ones that are anywhere past the green line. He's not interested in allowing them to continue. Even Barak didn't do that. We also, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, the fact is that had Camp David or Clinton parameters or even especially Olmert's plan been accepted, we know that settlements would have been dismantled, especially anything beyond the green line, and yeah, pretty much all the ones like that are several miles past the green line would have been gone, and the other ones wouldn't have been allowed to expand. So we know that those offers have existed, and in any case, when you're talking about the Palestinian, there's a few points again, the PA-Hamas crackdown, again, I think we also both know that if Israel just unilaterally
Not
themselves out of the West
swastika
Bank tomorrow, then
enough for
Hamas would
Leo.
win an election, or they would
Fair.
take power by force. They are easily the most popular party in that territory. We also, again, if we're talking about you don't care about what Israelis think, and you don't care about the left wing winning over the right wing, and you just want them to be to their backs to the wall until they concede something, what exactly are you expecting the Israelis to concede that there's any realistic option of them doing? What are they going to concede?
I think that once you take away the ability to just have a racist apartheid state, that Israelis start conceding huge amounts. Once you start feeling the consequences of having an occupation, no longer getting loan guarantees from America, unlimited weaponry, the protection of...
Almog. I'm glad you jumped over, my friend. It's good to see you. Give me an update. How are things over there? Because the media isn't covering it as much anymore right now. Yeah, it's pretty rough. It is pretty fucking rough. Yeah. But yeah, like how are things over in Israel right now? How's everyone feeling? How's the ceasefire going? How's everyone feeling about it?
The U.S. I think all of a sudden that Israel does start conceding. There are historical like moments when this happened. Begin says to Reagan, he says to Reagan,
Waiting
talks to
for
Reagan
shit to
about
happen.
it's in August of 1982.
Does
the second
it-
that there's like a threat of the U.S.
I mean, is there still like negotiations going to like move into the next phase, or is it stalled? Are there any more like attacks from either side happening? Is everyone sort of quiet right now? See what's happening in Lebanon? Quiet right now, waiting to see if Lebanon going to disarm Hezbollah or not. Well, I mean, they probably want to, right? Are they going to a civil war, or are we going into Lebanon probably? If they go into a civil war with Hezbollah, do you think they might ask for help from Israel? That would be very interesting. I doubt it, but it would be very interesting if they did. They got U.S. France to help. Wow, if Israel helped the new Lebanese government, or I guess the Lebanese government, not the new Lebanese government, with a civil war against Hezbollah, that would be huge. That would be huge. Yeah, we probably would either way, so they might as well. And then, like, once Hezbollah is, like, gone, there can be, like, a really, really strong relationship between the Lebanese government and Israel going forward. That would be very smart. Somebody get Bibi on the phone with me so I can let him know. Be like, go talk to the Lebanese government. Oh, man. Cosmic, have you seen this debate? Daniel was telling me that it was... Daniel and now Almog, they're both telling me it's absolute cancer, which so far, yeah, it's pretty... There's no way the government will want some help. That's what I'm thinking. Probably not, but maybe there's a chance. There's a chance. There are already talks between Lebanon and Israel. There's like a chance. It's unlikely, but I think there's a chance. Besides stabilizing the area, it has the added bonus of making leftists mauled. Well, that's just an extra bonus, right? When the far lefties are upset. That's just a little cherry on top. We do love that. But it would be cool.
Support for them. Israel starts acting.
Far
It's just
left
it's never
fatigue every
really happened.
time
Because in the
they're
current
in
status
anything,
quo, the fact
I
is
just
Israel is
watch
better
it.
to have
It's
as an
rough.
ally, and so we're always going to keep appeasing it. However, there is something that I want.
It's been really frustrating lately. It's like, get on board with moving forward. It seems like every far lefty is like somewhat of an accelerationist now. It's so difficult to deal with. Like, how are we supposed to have productive conversations when it's all like, no, fuck the whole system, we hate the whole system, we don't exactly know what the right way to fix it is, but we hate it, so we want it to fail anyway. Which is just like, you think you hate things now? Just wait until you do, until that happens.
To address that. The reason for the popularity of Hamas is pretty evident, by the way.
That's why they can never be in
Palestinian
power.
Authority-
Daniel and I, we always talk about this. They never want to be in power. Because then who do they have left to criticize? Watch, they're already pissed about Mamdani in New York. They're already doing it because that's their whole thing. They don't want to actually be in power and do things. They just want to criticize people for not doing things the way they imagine them in their brain. It's a fucking catch-22. Well, Mamdani takes NYC, right? Surely that's their guy. Not anymore. Yeah, they hate him now, too. Yeah. They hate him now, too. Which, good. If they keep hating him, that'll probably move him more moderate, which is great. We need that. Aurora is nodding her head in agreement. Oh, Aurora. So Almug is the gentleman I told you about, who's from one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th in Israel. He's one of our resident Israeli chatters. We celebrated
I made
the night.
that connection.
Yeah, we celebrated the night of the ceasefire. He came in here. We had a fun time. He's usually not on here on the later streams because for obvious, the time difference, obviously. But yeah, we love him when he comes by, whenever he can.
Yeah, that's an honor. So,
If you have any,
you know,
if you have any
close to home.
questions you want to ask him, he's usually pretty open. Feel free.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not currently prepared
For
in
sure.
the headspace, but I'm here to listen.
Of
and-
course.
Yeah.
Leftists are like the mythological phoenix, except it just burns itself down and never rises from the ashes. So basically, the Aaron Bushnell phoenix. Oh man, youch! Oh fuck. Yep, they don't want to be in power. Just criticize. Exactly. Oh damn, Daniel. That was woo. That was a Charlie Kirk finally leaning left level joke. It's fine, ask whatever. If I don't want to answer, I just don't usually. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, he's
Love it. Respect.
cool guy. When I was a kid.
Yeah, are you safe?
When I was a kid, by the way, I stayed in our like travels around Israel when we were visiting. When I was like a kid, we stayed for a couple weeks on a kibbutzim. Reasonable to be in power to consider it. Yeah, that's a tough one. Chilling right now, yeah. Well done, extra crispy burn. Oh no. Yeah, I've been to Israel twice. No, not after the Gaza war. I'm saying when I was a kid. So I've been to Israel twice. Once when I was like around 8, in the late 90s, and then again during the second Intifada. So like around 05, 06.
Time for another trip.
Yeah, you want to go?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you got to order your menorah.
Oh yeah, let me do that real quick. Real casual. Help me pick one.
We'll help you pick one. Send us the ones you're looking at. Almog will help us pick one. Even though Hanukkah isn't like generally a big Jewish holiday, they know that it's a big one over here. So, how is America these days? Awful.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
Could be worse, I hear.
We have a clown for president. Every day is just another fucking day in the clown show. But, you know, it is what it is.
Feels like we're always having to be complacent to
Yeah.
the wild decisions.
Inflation rising.
And we have to pay for it.
Jobs going down. Fed just cut interest rates because the economy looks like it's in a pretty bad spot. People are paying more and more for everything, and the people who vote for Trump just literally have blinders over their faces and think everything he does is incredible as the country falls apart.
They still want to blame us, too.
Mm-hmm. Anytime a bad thing comes out, it's still Joe Biden's fault.
Yep.
Yeah, don't say it can always be worse. It's gonna be worse. It will. I can promise you. Hold on. I just hope we don't end up in like a civil war. I don't think that will happen. But that would be worse. That would be the worst point. You know, I go back and forth between being black-pilled and hopeful day to day. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, that's how it's going. But
yeah,
we're safe in a way right now. For now, nothing feels stable though.
Ukraine-America relations is very confusing to me. What's going on with that? You know what? It's confusing to us too, and it's not because it's very complicated. It's because our president is so easily manipulatable that literally whoever is nice to him last is who he's going to be on the side of. It is ridiculous. It's actually a joke. Like, that's why, like, FIFA figured it out. They gave him a made-up award just for him, the FIFA Peace Prize, just for him, and he put it on himself too. I mean, it's like, you want Trump to like you and do what you want? Cool, just fucking do whatever will make him happy in the moment. So right now, I don't know whose side. I don't know. I never know. General America foreign policy to EU right now seems 180. Yeah, but he did that last time too, because he doesn't like the EU leaders because they didn't like him because they talked shit about him. That's it. That's our president. He's a mean girl. That's what he is. They said some shit, and now instead of being a responsible leader, he has a bone to pick because they talk shit. Cautious, pessimistic attitude is true, right? That cautious pessimism. EU is annoying as fuck. That's true, but that doesn't mean you act like a retard when you're doing international relations. EU is being annoying as fuck, and especially from the point of view of an Israeli, makes a ton of sense, right? But like, you have to be smart about how you interact with other countries, and it just feels like Trump just wants to fuck all the goodwill out the door. I just know that the only saving grace is the fact that most of these countries are probably thinking to themselves, all right, just a few more years and this absolute retard of epic proportions is gone. Now, I will tell you what, at least he did the ceasefire, right? Or I don't know who came up with the ceasefire, but he's taking credit for it. Whoever whichever diplomat, negotiator did that, good for them. But yeah, anyway, not hard. Putin likes authoritarians. Doesn't like the democratic process. He wants to be worshipped and adored like Putin. Xi and Kim. Yep. He does. It's crazy because, like, if he had never entered politics, people probably still would have liked him generally. No one would have found out about all the retarded shit and crazy illegal shit. They just generally would have been like, oh yeah, that's the fun rich guy from The Apprentice. He's pretty funny. His hotels are nice. But now, you know,
If only.
he's gonna go down in history as like an inflection point for democracy. And not in a good way.
And now we have a soundboard.
I'm gonna come. Yeah. How's that debate so far? Here, yeah, we'll get back into it. We'll keep watching. Yeah, he did. He said a lot of stupid shit, but you know, I'm breaking it down, so we can talk about it in here. Feel free to leave your commentary so we can like have a conversation about it rather than just listen to this guy keep doing the same shit. It's a lot of him, you know, again, viewing things from a one-sided, like, Israel is the one who has to take the first step. It can only be Israel because of this and this and this. And I'm like, it just, again, these people don't actually want to end the conflict. They just want, you know, the justice that they perceive to be justice. But, you know, for ideologues, for populists, pragmatism isn't really the number one consideration in the equation, so we just kind of have to deal with that. Anyway, just keep on eating those Big Macs every day, my president, Pep W. Small. Yeah, but apparently he burns all of that because his doctor says he's the healthiest man he's ever seen, right?
The two-state solution lacks any legitimacy in the West Bank because it has not offered any improvements to Palestinians' lives.
True,
It categorically has not. They spend their time cracking down on Palestinians. They don't protect them from settlers. They do nothing but enshrine this situation where a small elite enrich themselves over and over again in Ramallah, whilst the rest of Palestinians live in a situation where they're generally incredibly unsafe and are living a totally abnormal existence. The PA really just stabilizes this horrendous existence, so it's not really surprising that an alternative who reject the two-state solution, who still engage in armed resistance and would allegedly represent a threat to, you know, the settlers, are the legitimate choice. I think it's kind of like, well, Hamas would take over. Yeah, but because of the context in which we exist. And once Israel takes meaningful, very serious steps of being like, right, settlements are frozen. That is the base premise of any negotiation. Not that, you know, we're only building defensive and offensive ones, because Rabin lied about that during his, well, actually, it was more the Labour who came before. They called it the stockade and watchtower mode of settlement. It wasn't like a legitimate thing. And the settlements continued expanding anyway beyond what they claimed it would be. And so I think I just sit here and I see this thing of like, well, Hamas would be elected and Israelis are scared about that. But it's a product of the occupation. The anxieties that Israelis feel are products of dispossessing people. People don't give up their land for free. People don't get subjected to occupation for decades and then have negotiations where the other side is still expanding settlements,
Again,
taking away your land, your resources, and then just go, okay, yeah, that's kind of fine for us. Like, I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to take into account those anxieties when they're a product of what Israel is and does.
Okay, so that seems to be that your position is that Palestinians, even if it came to, like, they're right to not have ever counteroffered a kind of two-state solution. They're right to just keep on going. But again, okay, if we're talking about Israeli, Palestinian armed resistance keeping up and making it popular, do you think if Hamas got elected in the West Bank that Palestinians in that territory would be safer or more in danger from Israeli reprisals? I'm asking that rhetorically because we obviously know that if Hamas are there in the West Bank, that's a territory that is much more, I don't know why you're saying that the security idea on the Green Line is not valid. Like, these are literally hilltops that are just a few miles away from all of the major cities in Israel. Of course it has a meaning. Like, it's much more of a threat than anything that could come out of Gaza. The fact is that when this space is granted to, that when Hamas have this opportunity, they militarize. They put that way in front of any kind of development of infrastructure or allowing people to try and build a better life or education or anything like that. They put it on military installations and tunnels sprawling across the entire place. You were wrong earlier when you said that you don't think the Sinwar or the Al-Aqsa brigades didn't expect to overwhelm Israel. We don't actually know what they expected because given Sinwar's rhetoric and given what was actually said on the day by Mohammed Deif, we know that they were calling on the rest of the Arab world.
Yeah, the rest of the Arab world was going to back them up.
To join into the fight right there and then because the time was
so
now.
This idea that they knew that they weren't going to win, they were hoping for
and we don't know. Maybe
other groups and other countries to rise up and back them.
What they wanted happened. Had 1 or 2 million Palestinian Israelis decided to rise up as well, had the West Bank risen up, had Hezbollah decided to unload on October 7th, had the militia groups in Syria decided to try and fire in, maybe they would have. Maybe they would have had Iran join in the same day and launch their ballistic missiles. Yeah, maybe they would have. But again, I don't think you really. I think you're. Maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous, but I don't think you would care. I think you'd be okay with October 7th just continuing all the way until Israel's gone, regardless of how many people died in the process.
I mean, I think it kind of depends in the context of what happens. Right?
Oh my God!
Casualties. I don't. Unfortunately, the problem with me and what I think of Israel as a structure and a society is Israel has always premised itself on eliminating the indigenous people. There are some changes that occur at the start. There are some different modes of settlement tried. But if you look into the logic of, say, something like the Jewish National Fund and the early Zionist organizations there, they basically try and do away with the Palestinians. But On the
Okay,
topic
but what
of- I
about
really
like the
want to go back to
martyrs'
one thing you said, a
funds,
couple of things you
bro?
said
Do
there
you
about
have a
tunnels, 'cause I
problem
think
with
that
any
they're
of
so important.
those?
Now, tunnels were first made for smuggling, I believe. Like, tunnels were made to smuggle things because they were living in a siege, right? They were in this situation where, you know, Israel withdrew, but they reconstituted around Gaza's border. They instituted a crippling siege of the area, and the tunnels were initially used for smuggling. Israel never stopped acquiring huge amounts of weaponry. So are you really surprised that a group whose legitimacy was premised on the notion, well, look, we've driven the settlers out through armed resistance. That's why Israel views these settlements as no longer necessary. Whether that's true or not, whether it came down to just Sharon wanting to freeze the peace process in formaldehyde, I believe someone close to him said. But
Oh,
ultimately,
no.
Hamas are engaging with these things,
Oh,
and Hamas have
no.
legitimacy because of the occupation, right? Like, I don't think it's hard to see that like the PA have lost so much legitimacy through collaboration, through offering Palestinians nothing, and that, you know, in Gaza, whatever it may be, they don't live under the yoke directly of Israeli occupation. But on the second thing, I am
True.
so perplexed. Like, I am so
Right.
perplexed by the notion that
Smuggling,
Palestinians could have
yeah.
built a better
They smuggled in broad daylight. They didn't need tunnels for that.
society in Gaza,
Hey.
right? Like, it was under a crippling siege. Like, surely that's something you admit.
Hello.
First of all. But second of
Welcome
all,
back.
the de-development, the economic destruction
Well,
of the
thank
Gaza
you.
Strip largely happened during the Israeli occupation. This is written about by Sarah Roy. She
What's
talks
happening?
about economic de-development that
Let's
occurs,
see.
We
and
were
largely the
watching this
permit system that
debate,
Israel had for
talking
a while.
about
The
it in
permit system
chat.
operated so beneficially for Israel rather than Palestinians because basically you could take a huge amount of Palestinians when the Israeli economy was good to engage in, you know, labor
Okay.
in the country, and then when you didn't need them, you could just do away with them. How is any kind of meaningful
Gaza.
society after decades of occupation, decades of extreme violence, going to build something better, something good, something that's like different and meaningful? Because the PA have failed and
Only
they've denounced armed
tunnels
struggle.
under-
They haven't built something good for the
Tunnels
general
under
population.
Egypt
It's
to
just a society
Gaza?
that's like
Wait, does
entirely.
he actually think that? Or are you just making fun of him? Oh, yeah, Gaza is filled with hundreds of miles of
Be reliant on
tunnels,
the
right?
Palestinian Authority and people policing other Palestinians. It's not a meaningful existence. It's not like the kind of liberationary change that we're looking for. And there's no way that Palestinians could have made
Be
that
right
regardless.
back AF.
Okay, coming to tunnels. Whether or not the
Forgot
first
to
tunnels
say.
were for
No,
smuggling, I
no,
don't
no,
think
no,
that's
no. He
correct,
meant to
because they were
say
kidnapping,
BRB AFK is what he meant to say, but he fucked up. He doesn't even know basic facts of this current war, let alone the war. Yeah, but that's like what it is with half of these streamers, is they just got into it now, and it was like such a huge, metric boost that they all went in hard, and, their audience captured. They have to believe whatever their audience believes, and they're only going to read biased sources and watch biased points of view. And then when they come up against someone like Lonerbox, they're woefully unprepared, and they just jump from point to point to point, and they stay on the back foot because they don't actually know anything about this conflict. Oh, you're leaving again?
No,
I'll see you in a second. Oh. It's confusing.
just being official.
They're just saying he thinks the tunnels are for smuggling only, so not for fighting. Yeah. Well, not necessarily always for fighting either. For sheltering themselves from Israeli bombs, but not any of the civilians, of course. No, I did. I remembered Aurora changed it to BRBAF. Oh, I don't remember that. I missed that part.
From 2005 2006 from those tunnel crossings. They were using kidnapping. And also, one of the things they were smuggling was weapons. So it's like, yeah, they were made for smuggling, but the timeline is just off there. The withdrawal came in 2005. The crippling siege that you described wasn't imposed in its totality until 2007 after Hamas took over, as in it happened after the rockets, after the kidnappings, after the weapon smuggling. The fact is that it's not, there's a spectrum, okay? I'm not saying that Gaza could have become Singapore. It wasn't a state when Sharon pulled out, the formaldehyde, whatever. It wasn't a state when Sharon pulled out. It was a territory, but it was also a territory with a lot of international aid, more per head than most groups in the world get, as far as groups that require it. They could have built something other than 500 kilometers of tunnels. They could have built something other than massive weapon stockpiles or enough booby traps for, in Sinwar's word, thousands of buildings. They could have done something other than that, and they chose not to because, again, they didn't think. What did they think they were going to do with all these weapons and arms? Other than what? What was the expectation there of doing all that? Because they were launching attacks into Israel. They were still launching rockets. They were still kidnapping soldiers or kidnapping eventually civilians as well. That's what they were doing with those tunnels. Just because of the first one, even if the first ones were just for smuggling food or whatever, I'm still not even sure that's true. But assuming that's all it was for, then what were they for after that? They were not. That's not their primary purpose. It's not. What's defensive about Hamas? Hamas doesn't think that if you want to defend yourself against Israeli, who's more well defended, Gaza City or Ramallah? Ramallah doesn't have tunnels sprawling all the way underneath
But
it.
who was better defended against like huge amounts of settler incursions into their land up until October the 7th? And even now, it's a dangerous situation for an Israeli settler to go into Gaza. Like seriously, for example, in Vietnam, the reason that they dug tunnels, they were dug by families and stuff. It was to fight against the French occupation. Like old people would throw away the dirt, kids would like grab it up, and people who understood how you did it would dig the tunnels. They were largely like a defensive operation because like this whole thing of like, well, Hamas stockpiled weapons for this or that. Israel's stockpiled weapons for for what? For mass killing? because, you know, look, Israel at times has engaged in defensive wars, but like 1982 Lebanon, there's no argument of defense there. They invaded to break the back of the Palestinian national movement. Sharon lied to his own government vis-a-vis that, and Israel's history of engaging in huge massacres and mass killing campaigns in order to get engaged to establish what it wants politically, it's not something new. And also, by the way, on the topic of
Are
like,
you fucking
Hamas
kidding
taking over,
me?
they won what was declared a free and fair election. They were allowed to stand by the West in an election. It was only after the results that the West were like, no, that can't happen. I believe there's a rather comical story that Condoleezza Rice fell off her treadmill when she heard the results because they did not
Fucking
think that Hamas
minds.
had any chance of winning. And so I think like this kind of notion that, you know, Hamas just used all this money to build weaponry. Okay, fine. Yeah, they did do that. But simultaneously, I don't know what else they could have built. I don't know what you can build in one of the most densely populated places on Earth that is subject to a crippling siege by
No
both
Israelis
Egypt,
in Gaza,
by,
'cause we
Israel,
left, yeah.
and where
Not only
basically
did you
have-
leave, a bunch of them were forcibly removed unilaterally by the Israeli government against their will.
cannot do anything. Like, you just cannot. There's not enough jobs. The influx of refugees after 1948 was even said, there's a UN representative who was like, it feels unlikely that Gaza will ever be able to support this number of people who came in. So you're kind of just building a society that is what? Reliant on aid from the international community forever? And Hamas builds what with that? They build a collaborationist society and get what? The Palestinian Authority? Like, I see what you're saying. Like, okay, they spent it all on weaponry. But I don't understand what else you think could have been there. I don't care if it's not Singapore. How do you look after a population of 2 million people with huge unemployment, with very limited natural resources? You know, the gas fields of Gaza, they weren't allowed those. They were found in, I think, 2004, 2003. They weren't
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. That really fucking sucks.
allowed them. What is there? It's really hard for me to see what kind of meaningful life you could find in Gaza. Like, people did, don't get me wrong. But saying
I
that you
should
like,
not
you know,
have
do
died
whatever
there.
that it could have been something really different, to
This
me totally
fucking
ignores like, the
window
history of
fucked me.
occupation.
I'm making it smaller.
Okay, you said a few things there that I'm actually quite skeptical that you sincerely believe. One, tunnels were not built in Gaza to stop individual or lone settler groups from wandering in and trying to set up shop. There's no, if a settler
I'm
wanted
talking
to,
jet-
yeah, the military
just address
infrastructure
that?
was, yeah.
There it goes again.
Sorry,
Fuck,
but I
dude.
just wanted to say, like, I'm not talking specifically about tunnels there, but I'm talking about building the capacity for, you know, like armed resistance.
So yeah, so rockets, RPGs, IEDs, like none of this is to deal with
Great
settlers,
jobs,
right?
right?
settlers-
Oh my
settlers-
god,
settlers-
build an
Israel had
economy.
no
What a
intention of sending
fucking
settlers into
crazy
Gaza after
idea.
05.
But the settlers come with the army.
Jobs
Like,
are
we know
better
the
than
settlers come
tunnels,
with the army.
100%.
You know that. But also, why did they have no intention of sending settlers in after 2005?
Because they pulled them out because Sharon didn't want anything to do with the Israeli army actually being in Gaza anymore.
Because why?
Are we going to go into the context of the formaldehyde quote? Is that why? Is that what we're going for?
No, just because I think that ultimately Hamas's logic and the logic of people there was like, look, it's costly when people actually stand up to you, when people have this capacity. It's easy to do things to defenseless populations where you've created a collaborationist regime, but it's not like, look, whatever Israel has achieved over the last few years, it has
Yeah,
not succeeded in destroying
you know,
Hamas.
it's
Dismantling
also
offensive capabilities,
costly
yes, but dismantling
waging
Hamas as a resistance
war
organization,
for decades
I
that you're
can't
not
see it's
going
been
to
able to do
win.
that. I really cannot
Instead
see
of
it's been able to
building
do
an
that.
economy that
I mean,
actually
there have been
helps the
much
people
more
there that you
sturdy
claim to
militant
want
groups
to
that have been destroyed in the
represent.
past. When it comes to Hamas and Gaza, yes, violence was one reason that they pulled out. The other reason that they pulled out, if you look at the broader context of that quote with the formaldehyde, was people believing at that point, people even within Sharon's government and even without, because obviously the public voted for him, was people out even without the government were believing that there's just no opportunity to get a two-state solution back on the table with the Palestinian leadership. And they believed that if they wanted nothing to do with Gaza, yes, it was costly, also because Gaza just isn't that interesting to even extremist Jewish people. Like, you have to be really extreme to think that, it's not even, I think Gaza isn't even referenced in the Talmud as part of being Jewish, so they have very little interest in taking it the same way that they do for the West Bank. And also just because that was Sharon's way of saying, because again, remember, Sharon also had plans to converge. He wanted to pull out of the West Bank as well, and to just leave it in the similar situation to Gaza. The convergence plan, it was called. They wanted that because they decided that their idea was to be neither the occupier but neither Sharon's position wanting a Palestinian state. So they would just pull out unilaterally and then just say, this is not our problem anymore, we're not interested. That's why they did it. There was not any risk of, and again, the army going in, that brings me to the next thing I'm not sure you agree with. You can take Sharon's pretext for going into 82 and say that it was false. It wasn't a PLO killing or a PLO assassination attempt in Europe, but do you sincerely think
He's
that
right.
Israel wouldn't have gone
Taking
to Lebanon without the
Palestinians
PLO being
apparently
there? It's not
left
that the
us
PLO were
wrong
never attacking Israel
understanding. We
in the
should
70s and
never
80s.
leave
The
that
Kosovo were not
actual
attacking the
agreement.
PLO in Lebanon.
I think
We sure 100% is
I
going
think they
to
wanted
work.
to make
I
a
know.
Christian Maronite state that was a desire.
That's
that Ben-Gurion-
true. But also, I do think it's powerful that they did just unilaterally say, okay, we're leaving. I agree. Something in writing, something they could point to would be better. But they did fucking do it.
expressed that Dayan in his personal memoirs expressed that it was a good idea to basically cleanse the south of Shia Lebanese and basically create a sympathetic Christian state from up beyond that point. And I think Ben-Gurion expresses it quite early and people are quite shocked, but Dayan also expressed it. And then since that point, I think Sharon was like, yeah, fuck it, we're going to do that. And I think that that's why they did it. I don't think they really cared about the PLO. I think that there's people who have made actually an even better point talking about Stefan Ziska. I think Stefan Ziska is a guy who I went to university with called Coulter Lowry's, I think his name
bad
is.
both in
That
Gaza
may be a
and Lebanon,
mispronunciation.
yeah.
But he's written basically about the PLO, the fact that the PLO were like moving towards a two-state solution. Then Stefan Ziska talks about it too. He's like, the PLO went on a diplomacy offensive. There's the famous speech by Arafat.
so
He's like, I have the freedom fighters.
We're talking about the 2005 Israeli pullout from Gaza, where they took all of the settlers who were living there and forced them out. So the tunnels were tunnels that Hamas built under Gaza. Hamas, not the civilians. They were not trying to escape. They were using it to shelter themselves from Israeli attacks, and they did not allow civilians, Palestinian civilians, to shelter in them during Israeli attacks. So they built them only for themselves, not to actually help civilians, and to keep the hostages there as well.
Gun and the olive branch in one hand, do not let the freedom fighters gun fall. And I think Israel was not interested in that kind of solution, you know.
In a very bad way, yeah. Hamas is garbage. Hopefully someday there will be a good Palestinian government to work with. Yeah, true. Escape to where Egypt or Israel both would throw them out. That's true. Israel doesn't want Palestinians there either. In fact, I think the border with Egypt, Egypt doesn't want Palestinians either. The border with Egypt, the border with Egypt is actually way more secure than the border with Israel. And in the past, when Westerners have gone to Egypt to try to march over their border into Gaza to support Palestinians, the Egyptians arrested all of them and deported them immediately, and were not nice to them either. They got roughed up and everything. They were a lot worse to them than Israelis would have been. Israelis would have let them go and protest for the most part. Required rather relocate. Yeah, transformation. That's one of the good parts I think about the Trump plan, if it goes through, is it focuses on de-radicalization. I have a bunch of leftists making meme posts of Palestine before the most recent war. Pictures of restaurants, malls, hotels, and beautiful beaches with, this was before Israel attacked, and then the next thing they say is that it's an open-air prison, right? They show these beautiful Gaza, it's so nice, it's like a resort, but then they also say it's an open-air prison. What is it? Which one is it? It can't be both at the same time. Yeah, you can't have it both ways. You can't in one post say Gaza was a desperate situation where no one could eat even before October 7th, calling it an open-air concentration camp, and on the next breath saying it was a sprawling civilization Israel destroyed because of jealousy alone. It is ridiculous. You just can't have a realistic conversation with people like that. The realistic conversation is, it was a poor area probably compared to other parts of the world. It was pretty densely populated. There were ways it could have been made better, improvements that could have been made to the economy, and ways to just generally make life better for Gazans. That wasn't necessarily imposed by Israel. A lot of things were still getting in, regular things that the rest of us had. But in order for it to, be a full participant in the world, have its own sovereignty and so on, they're going to have leaders that are willing to work with the Israeli government, because that's just the situation they're currently in. Yeah. Also open air prison because of whom you decide to attack your neighbors. It's a choice you made with. Yeah, because there was no blockade. When they did the 2005 pullout, there was no blockade at that point, and the blockade only happened after Hamas was elected a year later and started attacking Israel almost every day with rockets. That's when the blockade started. So it's just I hate this idea that every time I talk to a really hardcore pro-Palestinian person, they always only know the Palestinian side of the story. I know both sides of the story. That's important to me. I can say, yeah, it sucks for Palestinians to have to live under these conditions. It also sucks for Israelis to have to live in fear all the time from Hamas. These are reactions that everybody is having to everybody else. And at this point, we just need to have governments that are willing to do things that are going to be somewhat unpopular in order to move forward. So we'll see. We'll see if people can actually do that. But unlikely, because leaders are more concerned with keeping power right now than actually finding a solution. And people online are more concerned with being right or feeling whatever their sense of justice is, mostly whatever their sense of justice is from whatever their point of view is. They don't know the Palestinian side of the story. They know a third story that simply doesn't exist. That's pretty fair too, actually. Because the actual Palestinian side of the story isn't that cut and dry. most Palestinians, like actual Palestinians, aren't the biggest fans of Hamas. Whereas these people are like, ooh, it's just a resistance group. Compared to most of the Middle East, if you look at the stats, there's more education there than most other Middle Eastern countries and a higher life expectancy. Many other Middle East states around, and the largest international aid recipients of the world per capita. I was going to say why. That's why they have all of those things, because they get so much international aid. Hamas don't whitewash themselves. That's the just leftist dude. Yeah, Hamas doesn't care at all. Hamas comes out and they say, oh, this is great that all these civilians are dying. That makes our cause better. They have fucking said this. Yahya Sinwar said this shit before he got blown into a pink mist, thank goodness. That guy was an awful, 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 sad excuse for a human being. But yeah, they reveled in the death of the civilians that they were supposed to protect. Because they said, well, it'll just make they're martyrs. It'll make the international, community want to support us more and hate Israel more. So we these are necessary sacrifices. That's what they called them. When they were asked about how their actions would cause many civilians to die, that he called it a necessary sacrifice. That's why they hid behind them. That's why they use human shields. It's not because they want to protect themselves. It's not because they want to protect themselves. It's because they know that international law says that Israel can attack civilian targets if there's military using it for military purposes. It becomes, it enters into a proportionality calculation. And they know that that means children and civilians are going to die. And they know that Israel will attack them. So they do it. They do it because they know it's going to happen. Not because they want to stop them from doing it. Because they know it's going to happen. And they want those civilians and kids to die so that the world is on their side more. It's so fucked up. The whole situation. But then Israel, they're sort of in a spot because here's the problem. And the reason why this is part of international law. If they don't attack those targets, right? If they don't do those proportionality calculations and attack those targets, then suddenly Hamas says, oh, we can start launching rockets now from schools and hospitals and all of these other places, and you can't do shit. Because this is now always protected, so we can just do whatever we want without any impunity. And suddenly everybody's going to start conducting war from inside civilian infrastructure, and either only the groups that have no care about civilian life whatsoever, like Hamas and other terrorist groups, are the only ones who are actually going to be making any progress in any of these wars, or everybody abandons all of those rules and everybody just starts killing civilians all the time. All makes sense when you view Hamas as Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Now, some of you may die, but it's a chance I'm willing to take. I've seen that before. All taking into account international law. That's why when you use hospital for war, it's no longer protected. It's exactly what I'm saying. It sucks, but it is what it is. It would be much worse if we don't attack it. And that's the crazy thing I think a lot of people don't understand, is as awful as it is to, like, hit a hospital that Hamas is attacking out of, and, like, as disgusting as it is to see all those people die, the outcome of not doing those things over and over and over again ends up leading to them doing more and more and more and just hiding behind those civilians all the time. So if you're unfortunately in a shitty situation where you have to make that strike, because if you don't, then they'll just launch rockets from hospitals all day and there'll be nothing you can do about it. War is hell, man. When people say it, it's not just like, we follow the rules and we shoot a couple bullets at each other and hopefully a few of them get killed, not too many, and then we surrender. No, it's fucking hell.
Yeah, we're just lucky we're not in the way.
Yeah.
Somebody else is right now.
Exactly. Oh my god.
Yay, future.
Let's go Cancer. No. Oh no. Very unfortunate we're stuck with retards in the government who don't make this simple point. Yeah, like your government, I gotta say, man, the Israeli government, I think, is possibly the most remarkably bad government at public relations and propaganda I may have seen in a very long time. Like, I could do a better job than what the Israeli
Maybe you
government is doing. Maybe I should. The government wants to destroy Hamas, they don't have to. I mean...
Let's tune it up in here.
Yeah, but if they don't, then Hamas will just keep going. I mean, they don't have to do anything. I'm sure, Cosmic, I'm sure I can. You realize I'm exaggerating, right? Cosmo had to come in and just remind me that I'm wrong about everything. I agree, Almog. Hamas needs to go. And it's not even just is the Israeli government that wants them wrong. The Arab League wants them gone too. They're problem children and nobody likes them.
Yeah. Become something different.
That's not entirely true, Cosmic. There have been small attacks. But the reason why there hasn't been major attacks into Israel is because they've been on the back foot due to the war. Not because they're just chill and they just want to be friends now. Sorry, what did you say, Roy?
Oh, I said they should become something different.
Hamas? That would be great. But I think everybody just wants them to disband and have a new... And like, so the
That's
Trump
what I
plan...
mean.
The Trump plan would have like an international temporary sort of coalition overseeing things until a new government is able to be established. That's sort of the thing. That could go either way, but it seems like it would probably be better than Hamas. Yeah, Hamas isn't going to
Definitely.
stop, Cosmic. That's the thing. They've said it over and over. They said we'll do October 7th every year if we can. Like, they do need to go. Oh, yeah, I know. I get that, Cosmic. I'm not talking about their actions. I'm talking about a lot of the way they do their propaganda. Like, they have to destroy Hamas, obviously. No, they don't have to. They want to, I guess, technically. But from their perspective, they have to. But I'm saying from how they, like, do their actual public relations, there's a lot of things they could be doing better, I feel like. Or at least over the last couple years, there's a lot of things they could have done better. Fine. I'm going to need you to expand. Any war, you could just say any war as they want to. You're being, am I to understand you're being like incredibly literal right now? Which is fine, because if we're just going to be in super literal autistic land, I agree with you. Hamas has no real power. I mean, there's still areas of the Strip that they do control. I don't know if I agree with this interpretation. There are still areas of the Strip that they control. If they just withdrew by now without Hamas and their structure disbanding, then they could rebuild over time. I don't know what you mean. They still have connections to, you know, Iran, even though Iran is doing its own rebuild. If you want to talk about like right now in this 1 second, yeah, they're incredibly weakened. The idea that they can't come back. I mean, look at what ISIS did. They're not done. They're just basically done for now. They are still fighting. Or they were still fighting. Yeah, for now. And they've already said, like, if Hamas agrees to disband and disarm, there it is. It's over there. It's over then. It'll probably be a while. But, like, another thing, like, again, like, if Hamas were to disarm, then it would be over. Then they would stop. The fact is they're not disarming and they're not relinquishing, you know, control as the governing body in Gaza. Even though they're being offered, like, an eventual path to potential statehood, something, they still won't. Which Israel's just not going to be okay with. It would matter on the collateral calculation people are doing. Yeah, but the fighting has like mostly stopped at this point, hasn't it? Unless I haven't been paying attention. Ukrainians don't have to fight Russia by that logic. They could just sit by as cities full of women and girls brutally assassinated. Well, I don't know if that's completely analogous, buddy, but I see what you're saying. This is a way more interesting discussion than the debate. You can make this dog shit comparison. Well, wasn't that October 7th? So are you saying only on October 7th was that comparison valid? Just to be clear, I'm not necessarily questioning that. I'm just trying to understand your point. There now, yeah. So that is what you're saying, that comparison is only valid on October 7th. I think there is some merit to what Cosmic is saying. You have to understand, Cosmic is being extremely literal. Extremely, extremely literal. And he's not necessarily wrong. But he is being a little pedantic. No, he's saying strictly as a comparison in like if you're gonna make a strict analogy, then yeah, the merit is like a different question. But if you're talking about like a one-to-one, is it a one-to-one analogous situation? That's what he's saying. I'm not saying it has or doesn't have merit. He's just saying the analogy isn't one-to-one accurate. Because what he's saying is that, like, okay, Russia is still in Ukraine while Hamas is not still in Israel. So that's why he says it's not an accurate analogy. I don't particularly care, really, because it doesn't matter to me. I still think Hamas is a threat in the long term, and forcing them to stand down, disarm, is what needs to be done. If at some point that means the war restarts, it's unfortunate, but it has to happen. But I think I haven't seen any fighting recently, really. Second phase of the peace plan is close. BB says the second phase is close. So, I mean, they are finishing up. Yeah, of course. They're nuts, I say as I munch on peanuts. Do it all over again, I guess. Oh, he's hosting anything else now? Oh, bridge repaired. Look at that. How special. Alright, well, I'm probably going to finish up here now. You guys keep on going. I'll be back in a few hours for the evening stream. Alma, keep coming back, buddy. We love having you here. So, real quick, before I go, I just wanted to let Daniel know that if the Rams win this weekend, they will be the first team in the NFC to clinch the playoffs. That's right, before your Bears. That's right. What up? Number 1 seed. Let's go. It's the Lions, though. It's going to be a tough game. Let's go, Ram! Horns up, baby. Go, Rams! Ram-a-lam-a ding-dong. Alright. I love you guys. Imagine the opposite team getting rammed. Hang on. I'm going to end the YouTube stream for a second because I want to show you something really cheesy from like the 70s or 80s.